Are you sure he's dead? Terry asked. Has to be. The baseball bat hit him straight on, shoved his nose right up between his eyeballs. I ain't never seen a dead guy before, so you know, how can you be sure? Well, he wasn't moving, Danny said. And his eyes were open and cold and dead-like. Can't get that look out of my head. Well, there's this guy I used to work with, looked just like that every Monday morning, looked twice as dead after a long weekend.
I grew up believing that I was going to be a writer. Almost every writer I've ever heard says roughly the same thing. And I reached a moment in my life where I said, you know you can write. You don't know if you can write well enough that people want to read it. Now that I've demonstrated that people actually do want to read what I want to write, I can't imagine doing anything else and having as much fun. Whether or not it's a wise career choice, time will tell. But at this point, it's a whole lot of fun. Tonight was the first night on a road tour that I'm doing in support of Stinking Rich, my debut crime fiction novel, which was just published by Down and Out Books. Stinking Rich comes from a very simple premise. It asks the question, what could possibly go wrong if a backwoods biker group decided to hire a high school dropout to tend a barn full of high-grade marijuana? Turns out just about everything will go wrong. The book takes place in the Kawarthas, which is the country just north of Kingston, and it's populated with the kind of people that you would expect to find just a few miles off a dirt road just about anywhere. My publisher, Down and Out Books, is an American publisher, and I thought it was important that I take this tour very quickly into the United States. So I'm starting with Kingston, then Ottawa and Montreal, places where I've lived, where I know people, and then I'm shooting straight south to Vermont, Connecticut, New Jersey, Philadelphia, a few stops in Manhattan, and then the Midwest. I'll be in St. Louis, Milwaukee, essentially hitting population centers. And as much as I can along the way, I'm looking for co-appearances.
Rob Brunet was kind enough to invite me and another author to come and share in his book tour. So we had actually crossed paths in 2012 at Bloody Words, which is the Canadian Mystery Conference. And so we're just getting a little taste of our works and some questions and answers with the crowd. Found the establishment and its customers as depressing and pathetic as of previous perusals. The murky yellow light washed all the patrons in a perpetual jaundiced hue.
A year ago, I had just found my agent, and I thought, I found an agent, I'm all set. Writing a book and finding a publisher is a real journey. I would really encourage emerging writers to show up at book launches like this. It's a great chance to meet fellow writers, it's a great chance to meet fellow emerging writers. It's a really good chance to ask questions about the industry and to get an insider's view.
For me, it's great if I can work with an author who draws locally. For those authors, often it's an excuse to be back out in front of a crowd if perhaps they don't have a book that just came out this month or last month or even 4 months ago. Gives them an opportunity to go out. And the reality is, when you do events like this, a lot of it has to do with the socializing that goes with hanging with a bunch of authors in a venue where everybody does a reading, and frankly, crime fiction writers, especially I find those that write really dark things, are some of the funniest people to be around.
This is no joke. Lester's dead and I need your help burying him. I don't know. Terry paused to suck the last of the beer out of the can before crushing it and dropping it to the ground. He turned to Danny and said, I kind of like the idea of seeing a dead guy for once, but that dog sounds nasty. I'm just kind of chilling here by the lake and all. I think I'll pass.
In terms of challenges for Canadian writers, we have a very, very strong literary community. It's literary more than genre, although Canadian crime fiction writers are enjoying a lot of attention right now. We have a lot of fantastic Canadian crime fiction writers. The thing is about the literary environment, the fact that it's well supported through government grants, through prizes like the Scotiabank Giller Prize, through our library system, through the Ontario Arts Council. Even if more of that tends toward the literary, it still creates a strong platform for publishing in Canada. If you have something that people want to read in Canada, chances are people are going to want to read it in the States, and chances are Australia, England, English-speaking people around the world are going to be interested. So I'd say this is actually a very good time to be a Canadian writer, whether you're literary or crime, but a particularly good time to be a crime writer.
When the two men were slightly more than a shovel's length away, the dog stood up and slunk over to the trailer, dragging a bloody arm along with him. The arm had been gnawed clean out of its socket. When Danny and Terry looked down at what was left of Lester's body, they saw the right side of his face was chewed off as well. Look dead enough to you?